The third reason for this tabernacle is called a judicial system. And what I want to do is show a video. I made this video several years ago. It's kind of what started me off on trying to understand the sacrificial system this way. So if you don't mind. There are many misconceptions regarding the sacrificial system of the Scriptures. Many think it was a barbaric method to appease the gods with animal sacrifices. But is this what the Scriptures teach? You might be surprised to hear that we practice this same sacrificial system here in America today. Here is an illustration to demonstrate the sacrificial system for today. Here is the sacrificial system of America. Here in America, we have a law. We call this law the United States Constitution. This law is supported by various statutes and judgments, such as the United States Code and the many U.S. court decisions. The Bible is the same. It also has a law called the Ten Commandments located inside the Ark of the Covenant. This law is also supported by various statutes and judgments, such as the law placed on the side of the Ark and the many Hebrew court decisions. In America, the people responsible to enforce the law are called the police. In the Bible, the person responsible to enforce the law is the high priest servant. The high priest servant is the one who arrested the Messiah. He is also the one of whom Peter cut his ear off. In America, when you break a law, it is called a crime, and those who commit crimes are called criminals. In the Bible, when you break a law, it is called a sin. And those who commit sins are called sinners. In America, when you commit a crime, you might be arrested. The same is true in the Bible. Stephen was arrested by the Jewish leaders in Acts chapter 6. In America, before you are arrested, the prosecuting attorney will ask for a bench warrant from the judge. In the Bible, the Apostle Paul sought letters from the high priest to persecute or prosecute the believers. Remember, the Apostle Paul was a lawyer who studied under Gamaliel. He would be like our modern-day prosecuting attorneys. In America, when you are arrested, you go to the courthouse. In the Bible, when you are arrested, you go to the tabernacle, which later became the temple. In America, when a criminal is sent to the courthouse, they go to the courthouse jail. In the Bible, when a sinner is sent to the temple, they go to the temple ward. In America, after you pay your court costs, you go to trial in the courtroom. Here you will have a lawyer who will enter a plea on your behalf before a judge wearing a long black robe. Then the judge will listen to witnesses, facts, and evidence. This is always done before a jury of your peers. In the Bible, after you pay your heave offering, you will go to trial in the holy place. The high priest was always to wear his breastplate of judgment in the holy place. Here you will have an intercessor who will enter a prayer for relief on your behalf before the high priest, who wears a long purple robe. Then the high priest will listen to witnesses, facts, and evidence. This was always done before the congregation as a jury. In America, if you are found guilty by the judge, you will have to pay a fine. This fine can be a monetary fine, prison time, or even the death penalty in some cases. In the Bible, if you are found guilty by the high priest, you will have to pay a sacrifice. You will have to kill an animal and make a payment in meat. In some cases, you might receive a death penalty by stoning. As you can see, America practices the same sacrificial system that the Bible does. In America, we have the police to enforce the law. The Bible has the high priest servant. In America, when you break the law, it is called a crime. In the Bible, it is called a sin. In America, those who commit crimes are criminals. In the Bible, those who commit sins are sinners. In America, criminals are sent to the courthouse, where they sit in jail until their trial. In the Bible, sinners are sent to the temple, where they sit and ward until their trial. In America, the trial is in the courtroom. In the Bible, the trial is in the holy place. In America, a judge oversees the trial. In the Bible, the high priest oversees the trial. In America, the judge sits behind the bench. In the Bible, the high priest sits behind the altar. In America, a lawyer represents you. In the Bible, an intercessor represents you. In America, you enter a plea. In the Bible, you enter a prayer for relief. In America, you pay court costs. In the Bible, you pay a heave offering. In America, you pay a fine. In the Bible, you pay a sacrifice. In America, this is called the judicial system. In the Bible, this is called the Levitical priesthood. In America, the judicial system has various levels. At the top, you have the Supreme Court. Next, you have the various appellate courts. And finally, the many district courts across the land. You start out at the district courts. If you disagree with their judgment, you can appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court. In the Bible, the Levitical priesthood also has various levels, such as rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. At the top, you have the temple. Next, you have the rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds. And finally, you have the rulers of 50s and rulers of 10s. You start out with the rulers of 50s and rulers of 10s. If you disagree with their judgment, you can appeal all the way up to the temple on the Day of Atonement. As you can see, the judicial system of America is the same as the Levitical priesthood of the Bible. The question to ask is this: are we still to follow this same system today? In America, the judge sits in a seat of judgment. It is here where each sentence is given. In the Bible, the priest would sit in Moses' seat. It was here where each sentence was given. The Messiah confirmed in Matthew 23 that we are still to follow this same judicial system today when he said, "The scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do." Today, we do practice this same judicial system. We call it the civil service. The Bible called it the service of the Levites.
That wasn't religious, was it?
No, it's not. You'll find I don't do that at all. I like to show this video. It's kind of corny, I know, but it just kind of lines things up to let us see exactly what the tabernacle was and why it was, and how it fits today. And it's true, America's hundreds of years into it, and we're not doing it quite right, but it's our fault why it's not working right. We're the ones that left God's law, and we're paying the price. And understanding that just gave me a sense of peace, like, oh, now I get it. And but when it lines up like that simple, I think it makes a connection for people. The tabernacle, the Levitical priesthood, is a judicial system. So the high priest servant was its police. Just a different name, same job. When people were found guilty of a crime or sin, you would appear before the judge. While awaiting trial, the criminal or sinner would be sent to jail or ward, and they'd await their trial, just like we do today. The trial was always with witnesses. And the trial was always before the congregation as a jury. One thing that I mentioned last time, congregation in the Old Testament is the Greek word ekklesia in the Septuagint. If you study the Greek word ekklesia, ekklesia does not mean church like we see it today. Ekklesia means judicial system, government. In early America, our church ran the government. We've separated church from state. Now, it doesn't mean we don't do what we're doing here. Obviously, we've given up a lot of power, but we still get together and worship the Lord and learn how to encourage each other and learn God's laws and be willingly obedient. But we've literally gave up the power that our church should have. And I cited a lot of those points, but this is what we're studying now. This is the church in the wilderness. We've lost sight of that. 200 years ago, everybody knew that. What did they say at the revolution? No king but Jesus. They literally meant no king. We want just the judicial system, the common law that we have here in the colonies. That's what they meant by that. It wasn't a religious statement. Okay, so the sin offering was the penalty for breaking God's law. It was for sins of ignorance. And it was for any of God's commands. So you can get a sin offering for any of God's commands. Well, obviously, except for the death penalty ones. This was only done when the sinner was found to be guilty. This is a trial. This is the Bible's way of saying you're going to trial. A trial would take place. It was always in the holy place. That's why they would wear the breastplate of judgment. Obviously, he's going to make a judgment. That's why he's there. There's going to be a trial, and he's going to make a judgment. Or at the gate of the city. Remember, Israel grew. So the tabernacle is the Supreme Court. You're not always going to go to trial there. That's only for the heavy cases that Moses had to see. At the mouth of at least 2 witnesses, and must be found guilty. The priests were to offer a bull, and the congregation was to offer a bull. And the rulers and the commoners were to offer a goat. You see a difference there? God has always had a higher standard for those who rule or for those who are in authority. That's true in the New Testament also. Look what James said. My brethren, be not many masters, knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. God did that to the Levites. And you've probably read the requirements to serve in the church or to be an elder or a leader. And they must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, not greedy, not covetous. There's a whole list of things that God held more accountable for those who rule. So there are 17 statutes of the sin offering. The sin offering was for sins of ignorance. The sinner must be found guilty. The priests and the congregation shall offer a young bull, and the rulers and commoners shall offer a kid goat. The offering shall be a male. Commoners shall offer a female. Can substitute 2 doves or pigeons, or the commoners can substitute a 10th part of an ephah of fine flour. So that's interesting to me. That's not always blood. The substitutions are based on financial ability, if he be not able. So if you don't have a lot of money, there's a clause in the law for that. If you're not able, the reference is wealth. God is even gracious to the poor, even during times of sin. I thought that was kind of interesting. 9, the offering shall be without blemish. Remember, someone's going to eat this. The priests are going to eat of it. You can't bring a sick animal to the offering and let the priest eat the sick animal. Okay, shall bring the offering to the door of the tabernacle. The offerer shall lay his hand upon the head of the offering. This is just a description of how to kill the animal. I don't think there's anything religious in it. If you've ever butchered an animal, that's how you do it. The priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle it 7 times before the veil. This is a bit ceremonial. This is about as religious as I'll get. The priest shall put some of the blood at the horns of the altar of incense. The priest shall put the rest of the blood at the base of the brazen altar. The question is why? The sprinkling of blood. It's always before the veil. Remember when we looked at before the veil? It was put right before the veil. This sin was to be brought before God again on the Day of Atonement. That's what the Day of Atonement's for. You do all this judicial proceedings and you throw it all to God on the Day of Atonement, and He wipes it clean, and it's gone. So that's kind of what this is symbolizing. You're putting it there to bring it before God on the Day of Atonement. The horns on the altar of incense. The blood on the horns signifies that your prayers were not answered. I'm going to redefine prayer for you real quick. Sorry about that. Prayers in modern law are called pleadings. We call it a prayer for relief to this day. When you go plead in court, it's called a prayer.
That's interesting.
Definitions. Pleadings, according to Bovier's Law Dictionary, the formal entry of the defendant's defense on the record. A prayer in Hebrew is tefillah, which is an intercession, supplication, or prayer. It's the same thing. It's the same definition as plead. Prayer has always meant pleading in our modern law. Plea in bar is one, this is Bovier's Law Dictionary, is one which shows some ground for barring the defeat or defeating the actions and makes prayer. Prayer is the verb, plea is the noun. Prayer is the action. And we miss that today. All in our law. You can go to Bovier's Law Dictionary and you can go to Black's Law Dictionary. Prayer is all over it. What is religion doing in this law book? It's not religion. So the prayers or pleadings, you were found guilty. So your prayers were rejected. You put it on the altar and it needs to be forgiven. The base of the brazen altar, I think it's simply to dispose of the rest of the toxic substance. Okay, so when we recognize what the Day of Atonement was for and why they're doing it, that's what it's symbolizing. Does it also symbolize what Christ did for us? Absolutely. The New Testament talks about the sprinkling of blood over and over again. But the reality, what they were doing, they were anticipating the Day of Atonement. The priest shall burn all the fat, kidneys, loins, and liver. We've gone over all this. They're all going to be kind of similar, so I'm just going to go quickly on this. The remainder of the offering shall be burned outside the camp. And the priest that offers shall eat of the sin offering as a payment. So that was his payment. The next one's the trespass offering. That's the penalty for breaking God's law also, but there's a distinction. This is for sins of ignorance, but it's also for sins of intent, intentional sin. People don't recognize this sometimes, but a lot of people say that sins of intent or intentional sins are not part of the offerings. But it's not said intentional sins, but these are intentional sins. Lying to your neighbor, has deceived his neighbor, lying concerning it, swearing falsely. Those are all intentional sins, even though it doesn't say sins of intent.
Right, and the word trespass in the Hebrew.
That's what it means, exactly, guilt.
Yeah.
This was only done when the sinner was found to be guilty, just like all the rest. It carries punitive penalties, though. So if you're doing a sin of intent, now you have punitive penalties. After the shekels of the sanctuary, a misdemeanor will be 4 times restored. It doesn't say misdemeanor, but that's what our misdemeanors mean today. And a felony is 5 times restored. We don't do that today. If we hammered people, sin would probably disappear a little bit.
Right. You mean hammered? You mean literally hammered?
Well, let's put it this way. If we made someone go buy a goat, kill it, cut it up, burn it on the altar, and then pay a fine also, how many people are going to speed after that?
Oh, okay.
I think it's a great deterrent to sin because you have to work to get your forgiveness. You have to work to be, to wipe it away. I mean, it's not like it's just easy like you write a check. Today, we can do it all online. It's so easy. If you have the money, it's not a burden at all. 1, you shall offer a ram without blemish. Already, it's a heftier fine.
Yeah.
shall offer restitution in silver based on the estimated value of damages. So the priest is going to have to make a decision based on your intent and how bad it was. A fifth part of the estimation shall be given to the priest. So the priest actually makes more money on the trespass offering. I hate to put it that way, but they do. They must be found guilty. That means there's a trial. And shall offer for intentional sins. Shall kill the offering at the door of the tabernacle. We've gone through all this. This is just a description of how to kill the animal. The priest shall burn the fat, kidneys, loins, and liver, and the priest shall eat of the offering in the holy place. So that's his payment. Just tells you how to kill it. And this is punitive damages. We're kind of doing that in America today. We're just not tough enough. The difference between the sin offering and trespass offering is for intentional sins, and it carries punitive damages. And we do that today. We're just not as tough as we should be. The second and third